The morning air on Kepler 442d smelled like rain and something sweet that HFY could not name. She knelt in the dirt outside the human shelter, her hands deep in the soil, checking the roots of her tomato plants. They were not growing well. The leaves were yellow, and the stems looked weak. She frowned and made notes on her tablet. Behind her, the main research facility rose like a silver mushroom against the purple sky. The building belonged to the Galactic Coalition, and inside it, dozens of alien species worked on their research projects. The Coalition had invited humans to join them only 5 years ago. Humans were still the newest members, still learning how things worked out here, among the stars. The human shelter was much smaller. It sat at the edge of the compound, a simple dome made of metal and plastic. Inside lived 6 humans, including HFY. They had their own project, growing earth plants on this alien world. HFY was a botanist, someone who studied plants. She loved her work, even when the plants refused to cooperate. Tae-jun walked over from the shelter entrance. He was the security officer, a tall man with careful eyes. He always checked the perimeter 3 times each morning. "Still struggling?" he asked, looking at her plants. "Something in the soil is wrong," HFY said. She wiped sweat from her forehead. "But only here, near the forest edge. The plants inside the greenhouse are fine." Tae-jun looked toward the forest. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than their entire shelter. The canopy was so thick that even at midday, the forest floor stayed dark. "Maybe it is better if we do not grow things so close to the trees," he said quietly. HFY stood and brushed dirt from her knees. "Why? It is just forest." "The others do not think so," Tae-jun said. He meant the coalition species. "They say something lives in there, something dangerous." Before HFY could respond, Ambassador Vryn emerged from the main facility. Vryn was an insectoid, her body covered in green chitin that clicked when she moved. Her compound eyes reflected the sunlight in rainbow patterns. She approached them with her usual, precise steps. "Good morning," Vryn said. Her voice came from a translator device on her thorax. "I must speak with you both." "What is wrong?" HFY asked. Vryn's antennae twitched, a sign of discomfort. "Research Director Quell has called a meeting. All personnel must attend. There has been an incident." They followed Vryn into the main facility. The inside was designed for multiple species, so the ceilings were very high and the corridors very wide. They found the meeting room already full. Quell stood at the front, his amphibious body glistening under the lights. His large eyes blinked slowly as he waited for everyone to settle. "Yesterday we lost contact with Survey Team 7, Quell announced. His voice was deep and wet-sounding. "They were collecting samples near the forest boundary, Sector 12. We sent a recovery team this morning. They found the equipment, but no bodies. Only this." An image appeared on the screen behind him. It showed a clearing in the forest. The ground was torn up, and the trees around it were damaged. Deep gouges ran through the bark, too high for any normal creature to make. "What did this?" someone asked. "We do not know," Quell said. "But the local fauna registry shows no species capable of this destruction. There are reports, however, stories from trading ships. They speak of something in the deep forest, something large." Murmurs spread through the room. HFY noticed that the other species all looked nervous. Even Vryn's antennae were flat against her head. "Until we understand this threat, no one leaves the compound perimeter," Quell continued. "Especially not into the forest. This order is mandatory." After the meeting, HFY returned to her garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and deep blue. She watered her struggling plants and checked the soil pH again. Nothing made sense. These should be growing. Ki-wan joined her. He was their exobiologist, younger than HFY and always excited about alien life. "Do you think it is real?" he asked. "The monster in the forest?" "I do not know," HFY said. But something scared them badly. "The coalition species have been out here much longer than us," Ki-1 said. "If they are worried, maybe we should be too." That night, HFY could not sleep. She lay in her bunk, listening to the sounds of the alien world outside. Strange calls echoed from the forest. The wind made the dome creak. Around midnight, she heard something else. A deep sound. So low, it was almost below hearing. It made her chest vibrate. She got up and looked out the window. The compound lights created a barrier of brightness against the darkness. Beyond that barrier, the forest was a wall of black. She thought she saw movement in the shadows, something tall passing between the trees, but when she blinked, it was gone. The next morning, HFY went to check her garden plots. She stopped dead in her tracks. Her tomato plants were different. The yellow leaves were green now. The weak stems stood straight and strong. New growth covered the branches. "What?" she whispered. Then she saw them. At the edge of her garden, right where the compound met the wild grass, sat 3 fruits. They were not from any plant she knew. Each one was the size of her fist, with smooth purple skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dawn light. They sat, arranged in a perfect triangle. HFY looked around. No one else was awake yet. The compound was quiet. She stepped closer to the fruits, her heart pounding. They were beautiful. The purple skin had patterns on it, like veins of silver running through crystal. She did not touch them. Instead, she took photos and measurements. The fruits were warm, warmer than the morning air. They had no stems, as if someone had carefully picked them and placed them here. But who? And why at the human shelter? When Tae-jun came out for his morning rounds, she showed him. His face went pale. "Did you see who left these?" No, HFY said. "They were just here when I woke up." Tae-jun pulled out his communicator. "I am checking the security footage. They went to the security station together." Tae-jun pulled up the recordings from last night. The footage showed the garden clearly, at first. Then, around 3 in the morning, the image began to distort. Lines of static ran through the video. The garden disappeared into a blur of digital noise. When the image cleared again, the fruits were there. "Equipment malfunction?" HFY suggested. "Maybe," Tae-jun said, but he did not sound convinced. Or something interfered with the recording. The other humans gathered around the mysterious fruits. Sojin, their linguist, took samples. Dong-hyun, the engineer, scanned them with every device they had. Ji-woo, their medical officer, ran toxicity tests. The results surprised everyone. The fruits were not only safe for humans to eat, they were perfect. The chemical composition matched human nutritional needs almost exactly. They had proteins, vitamins, and compounds that were difficult to find on this world. "This is impossible," Sojin said. "How could an alien plant evolve to be this compatible with human biology?" "Maybe it did not evolve that way," Ki-1 said quietly. "Maybe someone chose it. Someone who knew what humans need." They all looked toward the forest. The massive trees swayed in the wind, their leaves whispering secrets. Somewhere in that darkness, something lived. Something that the coalition feared. Something that had brought gifts to the human shelter in the night. And HFY's plants, the ones that had been dying, now grew strong and healthy in soil that someone or something had enriched while they all slept. 3 days passed, and more gifts appeared each morning. HFY found them arranged near her garden before sunrise. Strange fruits with patterns like stained glass, clusters of mushrooms that glowed pale blue in the darkness. Once, she discovered a collection of seed pods, filled with the clearest water she had ever seen. Each gift was placed with care. The fruits never touched the ground but rested on flat stones. The mushrooms grew from a patch of rich soil that had not been there the night before. The water pods sat in a circle, their arrangement too precise to be accidental. Ki-1 spent hours analyzing everything. He ran tests in their small laboratory, his eyes growing wider with each result. "This is incredible," he kept saying. "These organisms should not exist together. Some are from deep forest ecosystems, others from mountain regions, but they are all edible for humans, all nutritionally complete." The coalition personnel watched from a distance. None of them came near the human shelter anymore. HFY noticed Ambassador Vryn, observing from the main facility windows, her antennae trembling. On the fourth morning, HFY invited Vryn to examine the latest gifts. The insectoid approached slowly. As if walking through deep water, she stopped 3 meters from the arranged fruits and would not come closer. "You should not accept these," Vryn said. Her translator made her voice sound flat, but HFY heard the fear underneath. "Why not?" HFY asked. "They are helping us. Our food supplies from Earth are limited. These gifts extend our mission timeline." Vryn's antennae pressed flat against her head. "They are marked, touched by the forest terror. No coalition species would consume them, but they are safe," HFY said, holding up his tablet with test results. "We have eaten them ourselves. They are more than safe. They are perfect. That is what makes them wrong," Vryn said quietly. "Nothing in nature is perfect. Nothing gives without taking. The forest knows this. The creature knows this. It wants something. Maybe it wants friendship," HFY suggested. Vryn backed away. "The forest does not make friends. It defends. It destroys. Ask Research Director Quell. He knows." That afternoon, HFY and Tae-jun requested a meeting with Kell. They found him in his office, surrounded by aquarium tanks that kept his skin moist. He looked tired, his large eyes bloodshot. "We want to know about the creature," HFY said directly. Kell was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he gestured to chairs. "Sit. This story is old." He explained that the Coalition had known about Kepler 442d for 30 years. They had tried to establish settlements 3 times before this research station. Each settlement failed. Not from weather or disease, but from destruction. The first colony was a mining operation, Quell said. 200 personnel. They dug into the mountain ranges, extracting rare minerals. After 6 months, something emerged from the forests. The survivors said it was a giant, made of living wood and crystal. It destroyed every machine. It tore down every building. 47 people died. "And the second colony?" Tae-jun asked. "A genetic research station. They were harvesting native plant species, extracting useful compounds. Same result. The creature came. This time, it was faster, more violent. Only 12 people escaped." HFY felt cold. "And the third? An agricultural settlement," Quell said. "They wanted to clear forest land for farming. The creature appeared on the first day of clearing. It killed no one, but it destroyed everything, crushed their equipment, uprooted their cleared land. Then it vanished." "So why build this station?" HFY asked. Keel's expression was difficult to read on his amphibious face. "Because the Coalition needs this planet. The resources are too valuable. We thought a research station would be acceptable. Small footprint, no extraction. Just observation." He paused. "We were wrong. Survey Team 7 proved that. But the creature is not attacking us," HFY said. "It is bringing us gifts." "Yes," Quell said slowly. "And that terrifies me more than attacks, because I do not understand why." That evening, HFY made a decision. She gathered her small crew in their common area. 6 humans, far from Earth, surrounded by species that feared what lived in the forest. "We should respond," she said. "Respond how?" Sojin asked. "With our own gift," HFY explained. "The creature brings us food. We should return the gesture. Show gratitude." Tae-jun shook his head. "That might encourage it, make it come closer." "Maybe that is what we need," HFY said. "Understanding, not distance." The coalition has been treating this world like an enemy. Maybe that is the problem. That's no. They debated for hours. Finally, they agreed. Donghyun built a simple platform from local wood. Jiwoo selected their best preserved vegetables from Earth, things that would not spoil. Sojin prepared a message, written in multiple formats. Visual symbols, mathematical patterns, simple pictures. The message said, "Thank you. We are grateful. We wish to understand." They placed everything on the platform at the garden's edge, right where the gifts always appeared. Haewon added one more thing. A small drawing she made herself. It showed a human figure and a large figure standing together, with plants growing between them. That night, Taejun insisted on staying awake to watch. He set up every camera they had, every sensor, every recording device. Haewon stayed with him, drinking tea and waiting. The hours passed slowly. Midnight came and went. The forest stayed dark and quiet. Haewon began to think nothing would happen. Then, at 3 a.m, all their devices went dead. Not gradually, but instantly. Every screen went black. Every sensor stopped. Even the lights in the shelter flickered and dimmed. In that darkness, they heard it. The sound from Haewon's first night, but louder now. A deep vibration that they felt in their bones more than heard with their ears. It was not threatening. It was more like music, or like the earth itself was breathing. The sound lasted for several minutes. Then the devices came back online. All at once. The lights returned to normal. Every screen showed the same thing. Static, then nothing. At dawn, Haewon and Taejun rushed outside. Their gift platform was empty. Everything they had left was gone. But in its place sat something new. Stones. Dozens of smooth stones, arranged in a complex pattern. Between the stones, small flowers grew. Each one, a different color. The flowers formed shapes, mathematical symbols that Sojin later identified as representing gratitude, understanding, and peace in several known alien languages. "It understood," Haewon whispered. "It understood our message." More impressive was what surrounded the stone arrangement. The soil in Haewon's entire garden had been enriched somehow. Her plants stood taller and stronger than they ever had. New growth covered everything. And at each corner of the garden, a small tree had been planted. Not earth trees, and not native trees, but something in between. Hybrid plants that should not exist, but did. Ki-won analyzed the soil and found it full of nutrients, perfectly balanced for earth crops. The hybrid trees had root systems that would protect and feed the garden plants. Everything was designed to help the human garden thrive. "This is not random," Ki-won said, his voice full of wonder. "This is intelligence. This is communication. The creature is not just bringing gifts, it is teaching us, showing us how to live on this world." Word spread through the compound. Coalition personnel gathered at a distance, staring at the human garden. None of them had ever received such attention from the forest. None of them had ever been helped. Ambassador Vryn stood at the facility entrance, watching. Her antennae were no longer flat, but raised and quivering. Haewon thought she looked less afraid now, and more confused. That afternoon, a merchant ship landed at the compound. The captain was a reptilian named Thexus, an old trader who frequented this region. Ki-won interviewed him about the forest creature, while Thexus loaded supplies. "The colossus of the deep woods?" Thexus said, his forked tongue tasting the air. "That is what the old stories call it. I have been flying this sector for 40 years. I have heard many tales." "What tales?" Ki-won asked. "They say it protects the forest," Thexus explained. "Not like an animal protects territory, but like a gardener protects plants. It watches for those who take too much, who destroy without thought. Those people, it removes." His eyes narrowed. "But it has never helped anyone before. Never given gifts. What did you do differently?" Ki-won thought about their garden, about Haewon's careful cultivation. We gave back, he said simply. We composted our waste. We rotated crops. We thanked the soil. Thexus made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Then you understand what the Colossus protects. Not just trees, but the cycle itself. Growth and decay. Taking and giving. Balance. As the merchant ship departed, HFY stood in her thriving garden and looked toward the dark forest. Somewhere in those shadows, something massive watched and waited. Something that had destroyed colonies but now brought gifts to humans. She made a decision then. Tomorrow, they would go to the forest edge. They would try to meet the creature. Not with weapons or fear, but with gratitude and open hands. If the Colossus wanted balance, wanted to see care for the world, then humans would show it. The gifts had been communication. Now, it was time for conversation. HFY announced her plan at breakfast. The response was immediate and divided. Taejun insisted on coming for security. Kiwon practically jumped from his chair with excitement. Sojin wanted to bring every translation device they owned. Donghyun thought they were all crazy. Jiwoo just packed a medical kit and said someone responsible should join them. Research Director Kiel tried to forbid it. He called HFY to his office and spoke for 30 minutes about protocols and safety regulations. But humans were technically independent members of the coalition. They could make their own decisions. Quell finally gave up and made them sign liability waivers. They left at dawn, when the forest was painted in shades of gray and purple. 5 humans walked toward the tree line. HFY, Taejun, Kiwon, Sojin, and Jiwoo. Donghyun stayed behind to monitor communications, though everyone knew the signals would probably fail once they entered the forest. The trees at the edge were enormous. Their trunks were wider than the human shelter. The bark was dark and ridged, almost like stone. As they passed beneath the canopy, the temperature dropped. The light changed, filtered through layers of leaves into something green and dim. "Stay close," Taejun said. He carried no weapons, respecting HFY's wishes. But his hand stayed near his emergency beacon. They walked for 20 minutes, following a game trail that wound between the massive trees. The forest floor was covered in strange plants that pulled away from their footsteps. Insects with too many wings flew through shafts of light. Everything smelled of earth and growing things. Kiwon kept stopping to take samples. "This ecosystem is incredible," he whispered. "The biodiversity is beyond anything on Earth." Then Sojin grabbed his arm. "Look," she said, pointing ahead. The trail opened into a clearing. It was perfectly circular, about 50 meters across. But the clearing was not empty. The entire ground was covered in plants, all growing in patterns. Flowers formed spirals. Moss spelled out mathematical equations. Vines grew in fractals that hurt to look at too long. "This is not natural," Jiwoo said softly. "No," HFY agreed. "This is a garden. Someone made this." They walked carefully into the clearing, afraid to step on the precise arrangements. In the center, they found a flat stone, smooth and black. On the stone sat a single fruit, the same purple kind that had appeared at their shelter. "An invitation," Kiwon said. HFY approached the stone. She picked up the fruit, feeling its warmth in her palm. She looked around the clearing and spoke clearly. "Thank you for your gifts. We want to meet you, to understand you. We mean no harm." The forest was silent. Even the insects stopped their buzzing. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. Then they heard it. The deep sound, the vibration that came from everywhere and nowhere. It was louder here, strong enough to make their teeth ache, but it was not painful. It felt more like music, like the earth itself was singing. The sound grew closer. The plants around the clearing began to move, parting like curtains. And through the opening came the creature. It was massive, 30 feet tall at least, maybe more. Its body was made of wood, but not like dead timber. This was living wood, dark and knotted, with green growth running through it like veins. Crystals grew from its surface, catching the filtered light and throwing rainbows across the clearing. Its form was vaguely humanoid, with 2 thick legs, a broad torso, and 2 arms that reached almost to the ground. But its head was the most striking feature. It had no face in the traditional sense. Instead, its head was covered in what looked like eyes. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They ranged from tiny points of light to large orbs the size of HFY's fist. Each eye was different, like looking at a star field. They blinked independently, some closing while others opened, creating patterns of light and darkness. The humans froze. Taejun's hand moved to his beacon, but he did not press it. Jiwoo gripped her medical kit. Kiwon made a small sound of awe. The creature stopped at the edge of the clearing. It was so tall that they had to crane their necks to see its head. For a long moment, nothing happened. The creature simply stood there, its countless eyes observing them. Then, slowly, it knelt. The movement was graceful despite its size. It lowered itself until its head was level with HFY's, bringing those star-field eyes down to meet her gaze. Sojin fumbled with her translation device, her hands shaking. She activated every frequency, every mode. The device buzzed and clicked, processing sounds beyond human hearing. The creature made a new sound. Not the deep vibration from before, but something higher, layered with multiple tones. The translation device struggled, showing cascading text and symbols. Finally, words appeared on the screen. You. Different. You. Share. Not take. You. Grateful. HFY took a breath. Her heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. Yes. We are grateful. You have helped us. Why? The creature's eyes blinked in waves, creating patterns. More sounds came, and the translator worked to decode them. The process was slow, the meaning coming in fragments. Watch. You. See. You. Tend. Care. Give back. Not destroy. Different from. Others. Kiwon stepped forward carefully. You have been watching us? The whole time? No. The eye patterns changed, which might have been a nod. More sounds, more translation. Watch all. All who come. This world. Most take. Cut. Burn. Dig. Take and never give. But you give. Plant. Compose. Care. Speak. To plants. No. The cycle. The cycle? HFY asked. The creature made a sweeping gesture with one massive arm, indicating the clearing, the forest, everything around them. Life, death, growth, decay, taking, giving, balance. This world, alive, must protect all. The balance. Sojin adjusted her translator. Are you saying you protect the planet's ecosystem? Yes. Keeper. I keep. Watch. When balance breaks, I restore. Remove. Those who harm. Protect. Those who help. Jiwoo spoke up, her voice gentle. Is that why you destroyed the other settlements? Because they harmed the balance? The creature's eyes dimmed, which seemed like sadness. They take. Not ask. Not give back. Cut forest. Poison water. Kill for knowledge. Try to own what cannot be owned. This world. Not property. This world. Partner. Must respect. HFY understood then. The coalition had come to this world as conquerors, as extractors. They saw resources, not relationships, but humans, with their small garden and their compost bins and their habit of talking to plants. had shown a different way. We do not want to own this world, HFY said. We want to learn from it, to grow with it. The creature leaned closer. Its eyes focused on her, hundreds of points of light all turning her direction. Up close, she could see that the crystals on its body were growing things too. Tiny plants sprouted from crevices in the wood. Moss covered its shoulders. It was not just a creature. It was an entire ecosystem. Walking, you understand. It said through the translator. You. Keep. Two. Small keeper. Keeper of garden. I see. You care. Like I care. But you, soft, vulnerable, need help. So I help. The gifts, HFY said. You chose foods that we could eat. How did you know? Watch, learn, see what you eat, what you grow, your body, made of specific things. I find those things, bring to you. Help, you live. Help, you keep. Your garden. Taejun finally spoke, his voice rough with emotion. You have been protecting us. Yes. You different. You care. Must protect. Those who care. Too few. In galaxy. Too many who take. You are hope. The words hit HFY hard. This ancient being, this guardian of an entire world, saw humans as hope, not because they were strong or advanced or powerful, but because they composted their waste and spoke kindly to their plants. The creature stood again, rising to its full height. It made the deep vibration sound once more, and this time the translator caught something it had missed before. Welcome, garden keepers. This world shares with you. You share with world. Balance. This is way. More sounds came, rapid and complex. The translator struggled, showing partial meanings. Learn. Grow together. Places. Safe. Places. To harvest. I show. I teach. This world has much, can give much. To those who ask, who respect, who give back. Sojin's hands flew over her tablet, recording everything. You will teach us? Show us how to live here? Sustainably? Yes. You teach. Others. Coalition. They must learn. Must stop. Taking. Start. Sharing. Or they cannot stay. Too many worlds. Die from taking. This world will not die. I prevent. But better. If they learn. You. The creature turned toward the forest. It paused and looked back, its eyes creating a pattern that seemed almost like a smile. It made one more sound, and the translator showed, Come. See. I show. First lesson. It walked into the forest, and the humans followed. They traveled deeper into the woods, seeing things that coalition surveys had never found. Clearings where edible plants grew in abundance. Streams of water that ran pure and clean. Caves where minerals formed without the need for destructive mining. The creature, the keeper, showed them everything. It touched plants, and they grew faster. It hummed at the soil, and nutrients rose to the surface. It was not magic. It was deep knowledge, understanding of the ecosystem at a level that no technology could match. By the time they returned to the clearing, the day was ending. The forest grew dark, but the keeper glowed softly, its crystals providing gentle light. We have to tell the coalition about this, HFY said. About you. About what you are offering. The keeper's eyes dimmed again. They fear. Fear makes destruction. Destruction makes response. Cycle of harm. Then we will teach them not to fear, HFY said. We will show them your way, the way of balance. The keeper knelt once more. It reached out one massive hand. palm up, toward HFY. She understood the gesture. She stepped forward and placed her small hand on the living wood of its palm. Partnership, the keeper said through the translator. You speak for me. I provide for you. Together, we teach. Break cycle of harm. Create cycle of care. Weth drate weth drate. Yes, HFY said. Together, the keeper stood and stepped back into the shadows. As it left, it made the vibration sound one last time, and the translator showed a final message. Tomorrow, more gifts, more lessons. Build understanding. Build hope. Enough. Then it was gone, vanished into the forest like it had never been there. The 5 humans stood in the clearing, changed by what they had witnessed. They had met the monster in the whispers. They had found it bearing not just gifts, but wisdom. The walk back to the compound was silent. Each person processed what they had learned. When they emerged from the forest, they found the entire coalition staff waiting at the tree line. Ambassador Vryn stood at the front, her antennae raised high. You are alive, she said, and her translator could not hide the relief in her voice. Yes, HFY said. And we have much to tell you. The monster you fear is not a monster at all. It is a teacher. And it has lessons for all of us. The meeting room was packed. Every coalition member on the station had come to hear what the humans had to say. Research Director Quell sat at the front, his amphibious face impossible to read. Ambassador Vryn stood to the side, her antennae constantly moving as she processed information. HFY stood before them all, Ki-1 beside her with data displays. She showed them recordings from the encounter. She played the translated conversations. She explained what the keeper was and what it protected. It is not a monster, she said firmly. It is a guardian, an intelligent being that has evolved to protect this planet's ecosystem. It has been watching us, all of us, to see how we interact with the world, and it chose to help humans, Ki-1 added, bringing up images of their thriving garden. Because we showed respect. We gave back what we took. We practiced sustainable agriculture. A reptilian scientist raised his hand. But it destroyed the previous settlements. It killed coalition personnel. Because those settlements were harming the planet, HFY said. Mining without restoration. Harvesting without replanting. Genetic sampling that damaged native species. The keeper saw those actions as attacks on the world it protects. Murmurs spread through the room. Many looked uncomfortable. Some angry. Kiel stood, silencing the room. These are serious accusations. The coalition operates within standard colonial protocols. All our actions are legal. I'm Genstavin matter. Genstavin matter. Genstavin. Legal does not mean right, Sojin said quietly. And it does not mean sustainable. The keeper does not care about our laws. It cares about balance. If we break that balance, it will remove us. Then we should remove it first, someone said from the back. We have weapons. Technology. We could clear the forests if needed. The room erupted in argument. Some agreed. Others protested. HFY felt her hope slipping away. They were not listening. They were still thinking like conquerors. Then Taejun spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. You cannot remove the keeper. There is not just one. The room went silent. What? Quell asked. Ki-1 brought up new data. Information they had gathered from their forest trip. The creature we met. It spoke of others. It used plural terms that the translator caught. We keep, not I keep. The forest is not protected by one guardian. There are many, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, and they are part of the ecosystem. Jiwoo added. Removing them would be like removing all the trees or all the water. They are not invasive. They are fundamental. This world evolved with them. They are as much a part of it as the air. The implications settled over the room like heavy fog. If the keepers could not be removed, then the coalition had only two choices: leave the planet or learn to coexist. Kel slumped in his chair. He looked old suddenly, tired. After a long silence, he spoke. There is something you should know. Something the coalition has not been honest about. HFY felt cold. Kiel stood and walked to the display controls. He pulled up files that were marked with high-security seals. The coalition knew about the keepers. Not everything, but enough. We knew they protected the planet. We knew they had destroyed previous settlements. 18. We knew they had destroyed previous settlements. Then why did you come back? Taejun asked, his voice hard. Because this planet is too valuable to abandon, Quell said. The minerals in the mountains are rare. The plant compounds here could revolutionize medicine. The water is the purest in the sector. The coalition wanted access to these resources. Desperately, he brought up more files, plans, strategies, weapon designs. We were researching ways to neutralize the keepers, Quell continued. Toxins that might affect their biology, sonic weapons that might disrupt their functioning. We even considered orbital bombardment of the deep forests. Horror spread through the room. Even the coalition members looked shocked. Many had not known. But none of our solutions worked, Quell said. The keepers are too resilient, too integrated with the planet. Every plan we developed had the same conclusion. Destroying the keepers would destroy the planet. Make it worthless. The resources we wanted would be lost. So you brought humans here, HFY said, understanding dawning. You thought we might solve your problem. Keel would not meet her eyes. Humans have a reputation. You are persistent, creative. You overcome impossible odds. We thought, perhaps, you would find a way where we could not. The betrayal hit hard. The coalition had not invited humans to Kepler 442d out of generosity or partnership. They had invited them as a potential weapon, hoping human stubbornness might break what coalition technology could not. You used us, Taejun said. His hand moved to his communicator. Does Earth know about this? Some parts of Earth government know, Quell admitted. Others do not. It was complicated. The room erupted again. Coalition members shouted at Quell. Some defended him. Others condemned the deception. HFY stood in the center of the chaos, her mind racing. Then the alarms went off. Red lights flashed. A warning siren blared. Everyone rushed to the windows. Outside, the forest was moving. Keepers emerged from the tree line. Not just one or two, but dozens. They were all different sizes, different shapes. Some were tall, like the one HFY had met. Others were smaller, only 10 feet high. Some looked ancient, their wood dark and scarred. They did not attack. They simply stood there, a living wall between the forest and the compound. The message was clear. They had heard everything. They knew about the coalition's plans, and they were responding. Oh no, Ki-1 whispered. The main keeper, the one HFY had spoken with, stepped forward from the group. It approached the compound slowly. When it reached the human shelter, it stopped. It knelt and placed something on the ground. Then all the keepers turned and walked back into the forest. They disappeared among the trees as silently as they had come. HFY ran outside, the others following. On the ground, where the main keeper had knelt, sat a single object. A crystal, larger than any they had seen before. It pulsed with internal light. Sojin scanned it with her translator. The device activated on its own, showing a message. We know. We hear. Your leaders plan harm. We could stop, could remove. But you are here, garden keepers. You are different. So we choose. We show you truth. You decide. Stay and learn. Or go with others who take. Choose. Choose. The message repeated several times, then faded. The crystal went dark. They are giving us a choice, Jiwoo said. The keepers could force the coalition to leave, but they are asking us to choose sides instead. It is a test, Haewon realized. They want to see if humans really are different. If we will choose balance over resource extraction. If we will choose partnership over exploitation. Ambassador Vreen had followed them outside. She looked at the crystal, then at the forest, then at the humans. What will you choose? She asked quietly. Haewon looked at her team. Taejun nodded. Kiwon was already smiling. Sojin touched the dark crystal gently. Jiwoo stood with her arms crossed but with determination in her eyes. We choose the keepers, Haewon said. We choose the planet. We choose balance. She turned to face the coalition facility. Research Director Quell stood at the entrance, watching. Haewon walked toward him, her team behind her. You need to call Earth, she told him. And the Coalition Council. Tell them everything. The keepers. Your plans. All of it. No more secrets. They will want me to continue the research, Quell said. To find ways to exploit the planet despite the keepers. Then we will tell them it is impossible, Haewon said. We will testify. We will show them the truth. The keepers are not obstacles to overcome. They are partners to work with. If the coalition cannot accept that, then they should leave this planet. ADO. This work. We have the Sile. This work. We have the place sprayed. And if they order you to leave as well? Vreen asked. Haewon looked back at her garden, now thriving with hybrid plants that should not exist. She looked at the forest where creatures of living wood and crystal protected an entire world. She made her decision. Then we stay anyway, she said. We were not sent here to conquer. We were sent here to learn. And we have learned that there is a better way. A way of balance. A way of respect. If Earth does not understand that, then Earth is wrong. Taejun pulled out his communicator and began recording. I am sending a message to Earth Command. Independent report from the human team. They need to hear this from us, not filtered through coalition politics. Ki-won was already writing up his research data. Sojin prepared translations. Ji-woo documented everything they had experienced. Dong-hyun, watching from inside the shelter, began backing up all their files to multiple locations. Keel watched them work. Finally, he sighed. You know this will cause problems. Major political problems. The coalition will not accept this easily. Earth might not either. There are powerful interests that want these resources. Let them be angry, Haewon said. We are not here to make them happy. We are here to do what is right. The keepers have shown us how to live on this world. Now, we have to show everyone else. As the day ended, more keepers appeared at the forest edge. They brought gifts again, but different ones this time. Seeds, saplings, samples of soil, detailed maps carved into bark, showing safe harvest zones and protected areas. They were not just giving food anymore. They were giving knowledge. They were inviting true partnership. Haewon stood in her garden, holding a sapling that glowed faintly in the twilight. Around her, her team worked to process and document everything the keepers had provided. Above them, the stars came out, and somewhere up there, Earth waited for news that would change everything. The monster in the whispers had revealed itself. And in doing so, it had revealed the monsters in the coalition's plans. Now humans had to choose which kind of monster they wanted to be. The kind that destroyed for profit, or the kind that protected for balance. Haewon planted the sapling in rich soil. She watered it and spoke to it softly, thanking it for growing. In the forest, she knew the keepers were watching, waiting to see what humans would do next, waiting to see if hope had been worth protecting. Tomorrow, the messages would reach Earth and the Coalition Council. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. But tonight, Haewon tended her garden under alien stars. and she was not afraid. She had found allies in the most unexpected place. She had found teachers in creatures called monsters, and she had found a purpose worth fighting for. The gifts would keep coming, the lessons would continue, and humanity would have to prove that it deserved them. The messages reached Earth in 3 days. The response came in 5. It was not what anyone expected. HFY stood in the communications room, reading the transmission from Earth Command. Her hands shook slightly. Tae-jun read over her shoulder, his face unreadable. "They are sending more people," HFY said quietly. "Not soldiers. Scientists. Agriculturalists. Ecologists. They want to learn." "All of Earth wants to learn?" Ki-won asked skeptically. "Not all," HFY admitted. "There are protests. Some corporations are angry. Some governments want to continue resource extraction. But enough people saw our reports. Enough people saw the recordings of the Keepers. They want a different way." The coalition response was messier. The council was divided. Some members wanted to abandon Kepler 442d entirely. Others wanted to increase military presence. A few, influenced by Ambassador Vrin's detailed reports, suggested something new. Genuine cooperation. Research Director Kell had been recalled to the coalition capital to answer questions about his secret plans. Before he left, he met with HFY one last time. "I am sorry," he said. His large eyes were dimmer than usual. "I thought I was doing what was necessary. But I see now that necessity can blind us to other possibilities." "What will happen to you?" HFY asked. "Probably a tribunal, maybe exile. It does not matter." He gestured toward the forest. "What matters is that you showed us something we had forgotten. That taking is not the only way. That partnership is possible." After Quell left, Ambassador Vrin became the acting director of the research station. Her first act was to invite the Keepers to a formal meeting. Not in the forest, but at the compound itself. The Keepers came at dawn. 5 of them, including the main one that HFY had first met. They approached slowly, carefully, aware that many coalition members were still afraid. HFY and her team stood at the entrance to greet them. The main Keeper knelt before them, its star-filled eyes focusing on HFY. "Thank you for coming," she said. Sojin's translator converted her words to the layered tones the Keepers understood. "You choose balance," the Keeper responded through the translator. "You speak truth. Others listen. This is good. This is hope." The meeting lasted for hours. The Keepers explained their purpose in detail. They were not truly individuals, but parts of a larger consciousness, connected to the planet itself. They could sense the health of every ecosystem, every plant, every animal. When something threatened the overall balance, they responded. "But we do not want to fight," the main Keeper said. "Fighting causes harm. Harm breaks balance. Better to teach. Better to show. If others learn, fighting not needed." Ki-won asked the question everyone wanted answered. "How do we harvest resources without breaking the balance?" The Keepers shared knowledge that made the coalition scientists gasp. They showed zones where minerals renewed themselves through geological processes. They revealed plants that produced useful compounds without needing to be destroyed. They explained cycles of growth and harvest that could continue forever if done correctly. "Everything can be taken," the Keeper explained, "but must be taken right way. Take from abundance. Take when ready. Always leave enough to regrow. Always give back. Cycle. Must. Continue." Over the following weeks, the Keepers taught willing students. They showed coalition geologists where to mine in ways that helped the planet instead of hurting it. They taught biologists which plants could be harvested and which must be protected. They even revealed underground fungal networks that could help process waste and create nutrients. Not all coalition members accepted the lessons. Some left the planet, refusing to work under such restrictions. But others stayed, fascinated by what they were learning. Some admitted They had forgotten these principles in their rush for advancement. The human contingent grew. Earth sent 30 more people, specialists in sustainable agriculture and ecological restoration. They expanded the shelter into a proper facility, but one designed to work with the environment, not against it. Jiwoo became the primary liaison between humans and keepers. She discovered that the keepers were curious about human medicine. They wanted to understand how humans healed themselves. In exchange, they showed her plants with properties that could treat diseases Earth had struggled with for centuries. It is an exchange, Jiwoo explained to the other humans. They give knowledge. We give knowledge. Both sides become stronger. That is partnership. One morning, 2 months after the first encounter, something extraordinary happened. A young keeper approached the human facility. It was small, only 8 feet tall. Its crystals still growing. It came alone, without the others. HFY went out to meet it. The young keeper knelt, bringing its eyes level with hers. "I want to learn," it said through the translator. "Human way, garden way. You teach?" HFY felt tears prick her eyes. "Yes, I will teach you." So the young keeper stayed at the human facility. It watched HFY work in her garden. It learned about composting, about crop rotation, about soil pH and water conservation. The other humans taught it too. Donghyun showed it human engineering, how to build without destroying. Sojin taught it human languages, human stories, human songs. The young keeper was not just learning facts. It was learning culture. And in return, it taught the humans about the deep forest, about ecosystems so complex that no computer could model them, about ways of thinking that considered centuries instead of years. More young keepers came. Soon, the human facility had 12 students, all eager to understand these strange, small creatures who spoke to their plants and gave thanks to the soil. The coalition facility began to change too. Ambassador Vrin implemented new protocols based on keeper wisdom, harvest limits, restoration requirements, balance assessments before any project. Some researchers grumbled, but most found their work became more interesting, not less. Understanding an ecosystem was harder than extracting from it, but far more rewarding. 6 months after the first contact, the Coalition Council made an official decision. Kepler 442d would become a protectorate, not a colony. Resources could be harvested, but only sustainably. The keepers would have veto power over any project that threatened the balance, and humans would serve as mediators between the coalition and the keepers. "Why humans?" a council member asked during the announcement. Ambassador Vrin answered, "Because humans remembered something we forgot. They remembered how to be grateful, how to give back, how to see other beings as partners instead of obstacles. They are not more advanced than us, but in this, they are wiser." The decision was not popular everywhere. Some coalition species withdrew from the project entirely. Some human corporations protested Earth's involvement. But slowly, gradually, the model began to spread. Other planets with protective ecosystems were approached differently now. Instead of conquest, there were conversations. Instead of extraction, there were negotiations. Not all attempts succeeded. Some worlds remained closed to outsiders. But some opened, inspired by what had happened on Kepler 442d. A year after the first encounter, HFY stood in her garden, now expanded to cover several acres. It was not just a garden anymore. It was a demonstration site, where beings from dozens of species came to learn sustainable agriculture. Humans taught coalition members. Keepers taught humans. Everyone taught everyone. The young keeper who had first asked to learn was there, now taller, its crystals bright and full. It knelt beside HFY, its massive hands gently tending a tomato plant. "You know," HFY said, "when we first came here, the coalition thought we were primitive. They thought our ways were backward. Were they wrong?" the young keeper asked. "Yes and no," HFY said. "We do not have the most advanced technology. We do not have the fastest ships or the most powerful weapons, but we have something else. We have memory. Memory of where we came from, of dirt and seeds and seasons, of depending on the earth. And now you teach this memory, the keeper said. Yes. Because advancement without memory is dangerous. The coalition advanced so much that they forgot how to be part of a world instead of above it. They forgot that everything is connected, that taking without giving breaks the cycle. The keeper's eyes blinked in patterns, which HFY had learned meant agreement. Human way is old way, but old way is good way, balance way. My elders say humans carry ancient wisdom, wisdom older than your technology. This is gift, important gift. More beings approached the garden. A group of insectoid students from the coalition facility, coming for their daily lesson. A team of human ecologists, preparing to plant native species. A keeper elder, come to discuss the placement of new harvest zones. Taejun joined HFY, wiping soil from his hands. He had left his security position to become a full-time gardener. He was happier now, he said. More useful. Another ship arrives tomorrow, he told her. From Earth. They are bringing seeds. Thousands of varieties. Earth's botanical archives are sending samples. They want the keepers to have them. A gift. See, the keepers will like that, HFY said. They collect seeds too. Maybe we can trade. Earth seeds for Kepler seeds. Both worlds becoming richer. Ki-1 ran up, excited as always. You have to see this. The keepers showed me a cave system where crystals grow with properties we have never seen. They say if we harvest correctly, taking only mature crystals and leaving young ones, the cave will produce forever. Forever. No depletion, no scarcity. Just sustainable abundance. Sojin was not far behind, carrying her ever-present translator. The keeper elders want to share something. Historical knowledge. They say this planet has been protected for millions of years. They remember other visitors, long before the coalition. Some learned. Some did not. They want us to record these histories, so others can learn from them. Ji-woo called from the medical facility. HFY, come see. The plant extract the keepers gave us. It works. We can treat conditions that Earth medicine has struggled with for decades. Dong-hyun emerged from the engineering workshop, followed by two young keepers who were learning human construction methods. We designed a new water recycling system. Uses principles the keepers taught us. Zero waste. 100% efficiency. Earth is going to want these plans. HFY looked around at the bustling facility. Humans and aliens and keepers, all working together, all learning from each other, all building something new. Ambassador Vrin approached, her antennae high and bright. I have news from the Council. They want to establish similar projects on 5 other worlds. Teaching facilities, partnership centers. They are calling it the Kepler model, and they want human consultation for all of them. Will Earth agree? Taejun asked. Earth already agreed, Vrin said. Your government is pleased. They say humans are finally valued for the right reasons. Not for your weapons or your technology, but for your wisdom, for your memory of how to live with a world instead of on it. As the sun set, painting the alien sky in colors that still amazed HFY after all this time, the workers gathered in the garden. It had become tradition. Every evening, they came together. Humans and aliens and keepers. They shared food, both Earth food and native food. They told stories. They sang songs. The main keeper, the one HFY had first met, stood among them. It was no longer frightening. It was a friend, a teacher, a partner. When we first saw humans, it said through the translator, we did not know what to think. You were small, weak. Your technology was limited compared to others. But we watched. We saw you care. Saw you give thanks. saw you treat plants and soil with respect. We thought, maybe these ones are different. Maybe these ones remember the old ways. So we tested you. We brought gifts. We watched how you responded. Round. And? HFY asked. Though she knew the answer now, you responded with gratitude, with care, with desire to learn, not take. You proved different. Proved that advancement and wisdom can exist together. That memory and progress are not enemies. You showed us hope. The keeper gestured to the garden, to the facility, to all the beings gathered there. This is what hope looks like. Different species, different worlds, all learning together, all giving and taking in balance. You started this, garden keeper, you and your small team. You spoke when others whispered. You approached when others fled. You chose partnership when others chose conquest. We just did what felt right, HFY said quietly. Yes. The keeper agreed. That is wisdom. Knowing what feels right. Trusting old knowledge. Your species carries this wisdom. Not all members. Not all the time. But enough. Enough to teach. Enough to change. Enough to show galaxy a better way. The stars came out, bright and clear in the unpolluted sky. The garden smelled of growing things, of earth and flowers, and the future. Beings from across the galaxy sat together in the dirt, sharing food and stories and knowledge. And in the forest, more keepers watched. They were not monsters. They never had been. They were protectors, guardians, teachers. They had spoken in whispers through fear and legend, but now they spoke clearly, through friendship and partnership. HFY looked at her hands, stained with soil from a dozen worlds. She thought about how far they had come, how much had changed. The monster in the whispers had found them bearing fruit to their shelter, and in accepting those gifts with gratitude, in choosing to understand rather than fear, humans had changed everything. The cycle continued. Taking and giving. Learning and teaching. Humans showed the galaxy how to remember. The keepers showed the galaxy how to protect. Together, they showed the galaxy how to hope, and the garden grew. Under alien stars. Tended by hands and branches alike. A testament to what was possible when beings chose partnership over conquest. Balance over exploitation. Wisdom over mere advancement. This was the human way. Not the only way, but a good way. The way of the gardener. The way of gratitude. The way that built futures instead of extracting them, and it was enough.